Okay, for the second consecutive year, the University of Texas Longhorns played in the college football semifinals, the Final Four, and for the second consecutive years, the Horns came up short. And this one was really frustrating. In today's show, I analyzed the play of both quarterbacks, the Buckeyes' Will Howard and the Longhorns' Quinn Ewers. This is QB Unfiltered, my take. A brutal way to lose for Texas.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up.
Okay, so Ohio State's going to advance to the national championship game against Notre Dame after their 28-14 win against Texas in the semis. And according to me, for quarterback Will Howard, it was a game played in 2 acts. The first offensive drive where he was an absolute surgeon, and then the rest of the game where he was good, but not spectacular. For Longhorns quarterback Quinn Ewers, it was a game played in 3 acts. The first half, where he struggled, right? A gutty second half up until that second to last drive, the one that's going to live in infamy for Longhorn fans. And then the unbelievable series of plays, which resulted in a 14-point swing and a Longhorn loss. Let's start with Howard. On the Buckeyes' first drive, he was just playing catch. Now, you know, a lot of these teams script their first, let's say 10 plays, and they make a big deal out of it, and they rep it, and they rep it, and they practice that script. And the day before the game in their walkthrough, that's probably one of the last things they do as an offensive unit is go out there and go through that script of, they call them openers, right? First 10 plays, that's a pretty good number that a lot of OCs use. What Chip Kelly dialed up in that first drive, Will Howard was dialed in and really throwing with a ton of confidence, right? He was able to take his drop, throw the ball when he wanted and where he wanted to throw it. And what was really impressive to me and very noticeable was the confidence in the manner in which he was throwing the football, right? Had great mechanics, getting on top of his throw. Okay, I equate it to a pitcher throwing off a mound. A lot of times you'll see QBs keeping their weight back, dropping their arm down a little bit and throwing it almost off their back foot. I like the guys that take that stride step, transfer that weight to the front foot, pick that back foot up off the ground or lightly drag the toe of that back foot, which means their weight is on their front foot. And they get on top of their throw like they're throwing downhill off the mound. He was throwing strikes in that first drive. Okay, Texas was playing a ton of zone in that first series, and Howard and the Buckeyes receivers were just sitting in grass, and as I said, playing catch, and it was really pretty easy. You know, his best throw on that drive was an incomplete pass in the end zone where they ran like an RPO slant, and he threw an absolute BB on a slant route, and his receiver dropped the rock, and they came back and punched it in a tick later to take a 7-0 lead. In the first quarter, Howard was 7 out of 9, so you got that drop in there, right, for 74 yards. And after one quarter, Ohio State led 7-0. Right before the half, Chip Kelly made a great call on a running back slip screen. And the thing that was pretty unique on this, and by the way, this is a play, I've talked about this on other shows. I don't know why more coaches, more offensive coordinators do not call this. You don't see it a lot in games. And when you do see it, it's a gash play. Okay, so right before the half, Ohio State gashed Texas with a running back slip screen to put them up 14-7 at the break. Let's chalk that up right now. There was one thing that Ohio State did that was a little bit different, and the way that Texas played defensively, it was pretty much a perfect scenario and a perfect storm. But this is what happened. Okay, so we'll start with what Ohio State does with the receivers. They line up the trips to the right, and they're just running 3 verticals over here. The number 1 and number 2 receivers, the outside guy and the second guy in, are running a little switch vertical. They end up blocking at some point in time down the field, right? And then they take the number 3 receiver and they run him on a middle diagonal. This backside single receiver just runs a little bullshit out route. Doesn't really matter what he's doing, right? The game is going to be over here to the right. Now, Ohio State is lined up in a 4-2 over, 4 down defensive linemen, 2 linebackers in the box in an overlook. So they got the Mike backer over the center, and they've got this other linebacker over the tackle in the tackle box. And they're playing like a cover 4 look in the secondary. Now, on the snap of the ball, they take this 6 technique and drop him. They rush this guy, and this guy. 3-man rush, okay? They take the Mike backer and he bails to the 3 receiver side. And the reason why he does that is because from depth here, they bring this slot defender on a blitz. And in this backer that's the overbacker now, he is going to drop towards the middle of the field. Both those tackles are in pass protection, right? This left tackle, because this guy bails, he's just going to end up doubling or what looks like a double with that guard. The right tackle is blocking this guy. And you can see the 3 interior guys, both guards in the center, are basically sliding to the left because they want to get hands-on. This is a slow developing screen. And that's one of the things I said. This is kind of a unique way to run this. It was almost like they went a 3 count, maybe even longer on this. 1001, 1002, 1003. Okay? And then those 3 linemen release flat to the right and get upfield now looking for work. The beauty of this play is by these 2 guys right here. First of all, Texas brings this slot defender on a blitz, and the running back steps up like he's going to pass pro him. And then just leaks flat to the right. And that's the slip screen. Okay, so his action, like he's going to step up and pass pro, let that slot defender come a million miles an hour, and then just slip to the flat. That's the first guy that makes this go. The second guy is Will Howard. Now, Howard, as a quarterback, when you're throwing screens and throwing slip screens, you don't ever want to plant your feet and stride into the throw. You always want to be shuffling back away from the line of scrimmage and throw the ball off your back foot, fading away from the throw, so that if you get hit, right, it's like you've fallen out of a pickup truck going down the freeway and you hit the ground and roll, right? You absorb the hit, you absorb the blow, and that's exactly what Howard does here. This slot defender's got a free shot at him because the running back's going to let him go, and Howard just does a great job of letting the thing develop. He's shuffling back, delivers the ball, puts it right on his back. He cuts it up. He's got these 3 big dudes in front of him. Texas now has red screen. Those DBs are trying to get to where they can get in position to make a tackle, and you just are outmanned over here. Ohio State did just good enough job of getting a hat on certain guys. The running back hits that baby and gone. Okay. Big play right at the end of the half for the Buckeyes. Okay. One of the big defensive strategies, obviously, in this game for Texas was to take Ohio State's stud receiver, Jeremiah Smith, out of the game. And man, did they do that. You know, they either played a cover 2 look where they had a corner up tight in his face, or, you know, playing tighter coverage. And then they'd play a safety over the top of him where they were basically doubling him, or they would be very conscious of where he was on his intermediate routes. And the underneath coverage, like the backers in the box, they would bail and get all kinds of depth and try to work under his routes. And it caused Howard to throw a pick in this game in just exactly that scenario where Smith ran a curl route, and the inside linebacker to the side he was running the curl just turned and bailed way underneath that thing and picked the ball off. It was a poor decision by Howard. But that strategy, I mean, we're talking about a receiver that absolutely tore up the Oregon Ducks the week before. He had one catch in this game for 3 yards. Okay, Will Howard finished with a pretty damn good stat line. He was 24 for 33 for 289 yards, one touchdown, and that interception that we just talked about. Okay, let's move on to Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers. You know, he really struggled in the first half, and particularly the second quarter. You know, the second quarter was a punt fest by both teams, but Ewers struggled in that first half. The thing that really, I think, caused him a lot of issues in the first half was the fact that Ohio State defensively really only played a four-man front, and they were able to do to Ewers what they did to Gabriel the week before, in that he was forced to make a lot of his throws on the move. And it wasn't a situation where their defensive line was just beating Texas' offensive line right off the snap, and it was a wind sprint to Ewers. It was mainly the defensive ends, right, lined up in six techniques, that's outside shade of the tackles, coming upfield on their pass rush. And sometimes they were beating those tackles, but a lot of times in Ewers' mind, they were just about ready to turn the corner and make it so he had to move in the pocket. Right? So one of the things that was obvious to me in the first half, a couple of times, those defensive ends started to come around the horn and they forced Ewers, whether this is a real threat to him or perceived, but it forced him to climb the pocket. And where he got into trouble was he climbed the pocket way too fast and climbed right into those two interior defensive linemen who just swallowed his ass up. You know, as I was watching it happen, I'm thinking to myself, man, Quinn, if you're going to climb, you got to climb a little bit more under control so that you're not climbing right into a two-man tackle, you know? And so that first half, he was really uncomfortable and couldn't throw the ball on platform and in rhythm and tempo a lot of times, more involved in the pass offense. But that first half was a struggle for Ewers. But in the second half, man, he really stepped it up and he made some really gritty plays. And again, it was something where he was always harassed, semi-harassed. It just wasn't a comfortable environment for him. But he's a competitor and he stayed in there and he battled. You know, I have a notepad next to me when I'm watching these games, and I was writing down in the first half, Sarkisian run more screens and freeze counts just to slow down that defensive line a little bit, right? Okay, now let's talk a little bit about Texas's receivers. This leads me to this. Do you think that Quinn Ewers and Steve Sarkisian could have used the services of their most dynamic receiver, Matthew Golden, in this game? You think that that guy might have made a difference if he would have played? So he's hurt in the first half, right? An apparent leg injury. I'm going, okay, this is going to affect them a little bit. And I look up at my screen and they've got the camera following him and one of the trainers walking off the field in the back of the end zone and down the tunnel to go to the locker room. And I'm looking at Golden and he's walking completely normal. And I'm saying to myself, are you kidding me? Okay. And then in the second half, you know, they got the sideline reporter and they kick it down to her and she's talking about the fact that Golden's been on the sideline jumping up and down, but he still can't go. And I'm going, yeah, okay. And then they show a close-up of him on the sideline without his helmet. I've seen this look on players' faces so many times. He had this look in his eyes and on his face like, yeah, I'm not real interested in playing. Man, that is frustrating. That's frustrating for Quinn Ewers. That's frustrating for Steve Sarkisian, and that's frustrating for everybody associated with Texas. I mean, at the end of the day, this is not a real big game, right? Semifinals of the National College Football Playoffs. Kind of want your best guys out there playing, and you've got a guy that is walking normal, jumping up and down on the sideline. You got no trainers around him on the sideline, and he's just standing there with that look on his face. Now think back to that fateful drive with the 14-point swing. One of the big plays on that drive was Ewers sticking in a corner route to Mr. Golden, right? And I'm watching him run the route, and I watch it on the replay. Man, he looked like he was full speed on that corner route. Now, I talked about the running backs earlier. Sarkisian does such a great job. He's done it his entire coaching career. He's done it all year. He did it in the SEC championship game against Georgia of getting his running back matched up against linebackers in man coverage and getting the ball to them coming out of the backfield and gashing defenses. And he did it in this game with the same route. It's called a rail route, where you line up in trips, and they would go trips to the right. So 3 receivers to the right, the single receiver to the left would bring his split down, and then they'd run the running back on it's like a wheel route. It's called a rail route, which is basically just a little vertical, right? And I'm going to chalk this up for you on the whiteboard, but in both situations, Ewers did a hell of a job freezing the free safety. So you've got the free safety here. You've got the rail route going to Ewers' left. And as he takes his drop, he snaps eyes to the right to get that safety. All he needs to do is take a step, 2 steps, or just freeze and flat-foot it, and you got him. What you can't have on this play is on the snap of the ball, Ewers is looking at the back the entire time, and that free safety comes flying out of the middle of the field and blows up the play. So twice on both of those touchdown passes, Ewers just real quick glance to his right, which moved that safety or froze that safety and gave that running back all the room he needed to catch the touchdown pass on the rail. And that second one that they threw, Ohio State was in a defense where they were absolutely screwed on this play. Okay, this is the second rail route touchdown for Texas, and I titled this, Ohio State is screwed. I'm going to show you why here, okay? First of all, let's draw up the defense for Ohio State. Okay, so Ohio State lines up in a 4-2, and they're going to play cover 1, which is man free. They've got this linebacker to the side of the running back, and he's lined up tight. So he's in B gap. He's not on the line of scrimmage, but he's lined up tight. You would assume in cover 1 that he has the running back man to man, right? Everybody else is locked up. The free safety is going to play center field. This is what Texas does now with the route. Okay, so on the 3 receiver side, number 3 is running a corner route. I'm not sure what they're doing with the 2 outside receivers. They may have had a mental bust by one of those guys on their routes because they're both basically running the same route. So the outside receiver's running like a little slant under route, and the number 2 receiver's running what I call a hide route, where it's like he's running a quick out, and then he pivots and comes back inside. So these 2 guys are basically running with each other. So I think one of those guys made a mistake, okay? On the single receiver side, to the side they're going to run the rail route, this receiver here has cut his split way down, right? Part of the play design. And then he inside releases and runs a little under route or an in route. Okay, the running back now is going to free release, which means he has no pass protection responsibilities, and he runs the rail. Now, the reason why Ohio State is screwed on this linebacker to the side of the running back blitzes B gap. That linebacker blitzes B gap. They got the 2-6 techniques going C gap. Now, but look what they do with the 2 interior D linemen. This guy and this guy step into the line of scrimmage or the offensive line and bail back into pass coverage. Now in cover 1, if they're playing cover 1 here, the way that they're running this defense and this blitz, this dude right here, who's about a 300-pound defensive lineman, is responsible for this running back man to man. And you can see, when we let the film go, that's pretty much no contest, right? Now, the way Texas is looking at this is a hot release by the back, and they're saying, if you release on that rail route, if that guy plays you in man-to-man, we like that match up. We're going to say that you've got more speed than this inside linebacker. We like the matchup and we throw it. If they blitz this dude, then Ewers just throws it hot to the rail route and they got nobody on him, which is basically what happens because this guy has no shot in the world to play the running back. So great call by Sarkisian. Really bad luck. Ohio State was in what they were in defensively, right? The guy, again, that makes the play, Quinn Ewers, because on the drop, when he drops, he glances to the right, which either freezes this guy or gets him to start working to the middle of the field, which guarantees that this back's going to be all by himself out there on the outside third, touchdown Horns. So at the end of the third quarter, it's 14-14. And as I said, Ewers has been playing gritty football in the third quarter, checking the ball down to guys, extending drives, moving the sticks. He's still throwing the ball on the move, off platform, and he's putting it on guys. And now we get into the third act of Quinn Ewers' night, the 14-point swing drive. Okay, we already talked about the corner route to Golden, right? And the Horns also overcame a really stupid taunting penalty on tight end Helms after a big catch, just a selfish, stupid decision. They were able to overcome that, get the ball right down there into the red zone, and here we go. From the 3-yard line, I thought Sark made a really good call on this RPO slant to, again, Golden, who looked like he was running full speed again. But the young man ran a great route, right? So he starts outside. He gets that cornerback to widen for a step and then cuts it inside on the slant. Corner was beat. He had to grab cloth. They threw the flag. That was a good call. Now we come to the play that's going to haunt Steve Sarkisian for a long, long time. It is 2nd and goal from the 1-yard line, and he runs a toss sweep to the left. Okay, now he knows what he's doing. He is one of the best play callers and offensive coordinators in college football. But when you're on the 1-yard line, you don't run laterally on a slow developing play. You just hand the ball to the back if you're going to run it and get him going downhill. Now, they were in trouble on this play because Ohio State's got those 2 stud safeties, right? Ransom and Downs. Ransom was the safety to the play side. And Texas, again, I don't understand the play scheme and design. They're going to pull their left tackle and try to block a safety coming downhill on run force. You can't do it. And he couldn't do it. And so Ransom beat him outside, right? And here comes Downs. He's reading this thing and screaming downhill like a bullet. And you got those 2 guys plus Texas's slot receiver to the left. Doesn't get the guy blocked out there either because he's not going to do his job. So as he comes off the ball to stock block that slot defender and he sees Ransom screaming downhill for a tick, he freezes and tries to block Ransom. Well, as soon as he did that, his defender has beaten him and he is now outside. So if Ransom doesn't make the play, that slot defender is going to make the play. It was a bad play design and a bad decision by Sarkisian, and I'm sure he's kicking himself in the ass for that. That was a 7-yard loss. It put the ball back on the 8-yard line, and now it's 3rd and goal from the 8, and here we go with Buckeye defensive lineman Sawyer. He's going to make 2 huge plays back-to-back, and on both plays, Texas offensive linemen, their technique got them in trouble. Okay, so on this play now, 3rd down, They're throwing the ball, and he's lined up over Texas right guard. And he gives him a little move, and Texas right guard stops his feet and drops his head. And as soon as you drop your head as an offensive lineman on pass protection, it's over. And so Sawyer beat him, and now he's got a wind sprint right at Ewers. He's in his grill, forces Ewers to throw the ball, not to where he wanted to throw it, but just to get rid of it. And he throws it out of the back of the end zone. They live to run another play. Next play, 4th and goal from the 8. Sawyer now moves out over the right tackle for Texas. And on the snap of the ball, now this right tackle for Texas, he is a good football player. He's going to be a high round draft pick coming up. Sawyer comes off the ball on the snap and uses a little rip move. And again, the tackle with his technique, first of all, his first step, he doesn't kick with that outside foot, kind of just picks it up and puts it down on the ground. So that gives Sawyer an advantage now to beat him upfield. And then he does this. He drops his head. And as soon as you drop your head, you're beat. And he was beat. Okay, now Ewers can see this. He's keying downfield, but as a right-handed quarterback, he can sense that Ohio State's got a red jersey coming right at his ass. Ewers slides to his left, but then holds on to the ball a tick too late and gets lit up. The ball takes a candy hop right back up into Sawyer's gut, and he's gone. Touchdown. That's a 14-point swing, and Texas goes home now and folds their uniforms up and gets ready for next year. Ohio State moves on. Okay, and then that's 28-14. Texas is going to get the ball back on their last drive, and a surprising decision, I thought, by Quinn Ewers. Ohio State's in what essentially amounts to the old Tampa 2 coverage. I'll bet Mina Kimes knows exactly what I'm talking about. And they've got Downs now is going to be the guy that's in a deep robber position. So they're playing cover 2, basically cover 4, cover 2. And Downs is in the middle of the field just playing that deep robber. And he's looking for crossing routes and reading Quinn's eyes. And they've got like a little dig route coming right in at Downs. And they've also have the tight end for Texas on the right side is running an under route. He's wide ass open. It's 3rd and 4, but Quinn decides to throw the dig. I don't know if he didn't see Downs or what. And then he lobs the ball on top of it. Easy pick. And the game's over. Ewers finished the game with pretty decent stats. You'd want his completion percentage to be higher, but he was 23 out of 39 for 283 yards, 2 touchdown passes, those 2 rail routes to the running back, and he threw that pick right there at the end of the game. So in the end, man, that was a really tough way for Quinn Ewers and Steve Sarkisian to go out. Ewers is reportedly entering the draft, so that's the last game that he's going to play for Texas. 2 years in a row, he took them to the semifinals, the Final Four. Both years they came up short. He's going to have a nice career in the NFL. Will Howard now gets ready to watch game film and study the Fighting Irish in Notre Dame, who have a pretty salty defense, and they get ready for the national championship game coming up. Okay, so if you enjoy my take on quarterback play, offensive play, passing game, whatever, make sure to hit that like button. I appreciate it. If you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the game, the performances by Will Howard and Quinn Ewers. Also, what you thought of that brutal little 4-play series down there from the 1-yard line for Texas. All right, this is QB Unfiltered. And remember, always throw the ball short to guys who can score. See ya.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.